Hello friends, welcome back to the James Lawrence Allcott channel. Move on, Jim. You've got to move on. The Euros is over. No, not ready. Not ready to yet. So we're going to go through my team of the tournament. And there might be a few alternate picks in this because what I want to do is not just focus on the obvious big stars, but I'm going to talk about a team of players that have announced themselves on the European and, of course, world stage in this tournament. If you are new to the channel, please do consider subscribing. This video is sponsored by Ultimate Fan. They're moving on. I'm not ready to move on, but am I ready to move on? Maybe it's time to move on. Ultimate Fan are moving on. They've got a brand new fantasy game moving on, in fact, from the Euros. I'll be talking about that a little bit later in the video, but if you do want to check it out straight away, link is in the description. Let's get into the video. What a wonderful way to celebrate the tournament by starting off with the player of the tournament. Gianluigi Donnarumma, of course, has to be the goalkeeper. I mean, an absolute monster. Italy was superb defensively, but whenever they needed him, he stepped up. And I think we've been waiting for him to just totally announce himself. And actually, throughout this, I think there are players that have announced themselves on the world stage or European stage, but with you know what I mean. Donnarumma, 12 shots on target against him. He saved 9 of those. That's 75% save percentage. A stat that I was chucking about everywhere was that 9 of 11 teams that have had back-to-back penalty shootouts have lost the second one, but not Italy because of Gianluigi Donnarumma. He also had a post-expected goals of 5.5, but only conceded 4. So he conceded 1.5 less expected goals than they actually did, which just highlights the quality that he has got, which puts him probably right up there as possibly the best goalkeeper in the world right now. This was a tournament for left bats. Left bats? What's a left bat? This was... Christ. Notable mention for Kyle Walker, but this was a tournament for left backs. We'll get to the left back situation in a second because there are, it's a really, really tough decision. But on the right-hand side, I've got to put a left-sided player on the right-hand side just to get him in because we can't be missing Joachim Mæhle. He was absolutely outrageous in this tournament. The Atalanta player really arrived on the scene and was huge in how Denmark played. Scored 2 goals from fullback, which is one thing. Of course, he was a right-footed player playing on the left-hand side. He did play 1 game on the right-hand side, which means I'm allowed to crowbar him in. 15 shot-creating actions during the tournament showed that he really offered so much going forward for Denmark, but also put forward the output of a defender as well. Against England, we thought that he might struggle against the dribbling ability of Luke Shaw, Jack Grealish, and Raheem Sterling. And although he did at times, he still put in 4 tackles against dribblers. He made 23 tackles and interceptions during the tournament, which again showed that he was a key part of the defensive work, but also that counter-attacking style that made Denmark such a threat during this tournament. Finally, he has had 90 touches in the defensive third with 169, that's 79 more, in the attacking third. To add to that, he had 12 carries into the penalty area. To put that into perspective, Raheem Sterling only had 8. So for him to do all the defensive work of a fullback, but also to put forward that much output, the output of a great winger, it's outrageous. Also, that cross against the Czech Republic was one of the moments of the tournament for me. Disgusting. When it comes to centre-backs, of course, notable mention goes to Chiellini and Bonucci. They would be in most people's teams of the tournament. As I said at the start of the video, I'm going to talk about players that really kind of announced themselves on the world stage. We know how good those two have been, and they were fantastic. But I'm going to go elsewhere just to try and make it a little bit more interesting. And as my right-sided centre-back, I'm going to go with Manuel Akanji for Switzerland because he was amazing, so progressive, so forward-thinking, and really both defended and attacked, and I mean attacked as a centre-back, on the front foot. This is possibly another theme that I think we saw a lot of the time, is that centre-backs, because I think teams were set up so well, centre-backs was a real opportunity to kind of drive through the thirds and get the team moving and bring someone out to kind of create an overload or just essentially dislodge very organised defences. And Akanji was amazing for that. In 5 games, he created 6 shot-creating actions. Now, I think you would imagine that those might come from a corner comes in, he heads it back across goal and someone else puts it in. But actually 5 of those 6 shot creating actions were from live play, from passes. He also averaged 4.74 progressive carries per 90 and 3.16 progressive passes per 90. Again, this is for a centre back, normally a player that just plays it simple. And it allowed Switzerland to thrive because they were able to play a back 5, 2 in midfield and allow Shaqiri to be that number 10 a little bit further up because he would fill in both offensively and defensively, almost turning himself into a defensive midfielder at times. This is a great stat that kind of proves that presence that he brought to the Switzerland side, because he made 7 tackles versus dribblers from 11 attempts, 63% tackle success rate. To only get dribbled past 4 times when you're playing in the centre of the pitch, and also just even attempting this 11 times as a centre-back, really just showed that his presence in this team was huge. He was also very efficient in the air, winning 64.7 of his aerial duels. Second centre-back, and in terms of arriving at this tournament and announcing himself, despite not playing the first couple of games, Harry Maguire still makes it into my team of the tournament. I think he was just incredible in terms of defensively, being on the front foot, but also his technical abilities as well, and his personality on the pitch. I think the fact that the first 2 penalties were taken by Harry Kane and Harry Maguire, and Harry Maguire takes a penalty like that. Again, you know, why would you put forward a centre-back? Because he's got the personality to do it. And as the tournament progressed, he became so integral to this England side. He had the most passes into the final third from this England squad with 36. He had the 3rd highest pressure success percentage. And I think that was a big part of the way that England looked to play. We were defensively solid, but he was often the trigger to go and win his headers, go and sneak in front, play on the front foot, and then start an attack from there. So to be 3rd highest in terms of pressures when you're a centre-back, again, a bit like a Kanji, just showed that he wanted to be that front foot player for this England side. You've heard the phrase, no smoke without fire. Here's another one for you. No massive head without aerial duel success. This is one of my favourite stats. Harry Maguire only lost 3 aerial battles throughout the entire tournament. That's 87.5 success rate. To put that into context, his centre-back partner John Stones lost 15 aerial duels with a percentage of 58.3. His head's massive. Onto that left-back position, and I want to put Luke Shaw in. I do, but I can't, because Leonardo Spinazzola is one of the names of the tournament. Like, different level, this guy. And do you know what? It made me think, wow, Italy truly deserve to win the Euros when you've got a player like that who was offering 4 shot-creating actions per 90. From left-back, in a back 4, you lose a player like that. 12 of them came from open play, 17 in total. And you still win it. Unbelievable that they were able to do it. Had his debut in 2017. He's only got 18 caps. And they made a call. They went with him. And by God, it was the right one. He was so important to the build-up play of Italy as well. If you look at the amount of touches that he had, 51.4 passes attempted per 90 during the games that he played in the tournament, along with 62.4 touches. 54.6 of those touches were in the middle third or the final third. Again, I mean, it's almost a compliment to Mancini. I wonder if Spinazzola can have this same kind of impact in club football as he has in this tournament. But it just really does highlight how Mancini deserves so much credit for going so gung-ho. Back 4. You've got a left-back doing that. Playing in that role and the focus down that left-hand side a lot of the time, there comes pressure with that. Well, like, quite literally, as you get further up the pitch. No Italian defender made passes under pressure more than Spinazzola. And he was averaging 8.33 passes made whilst being pressured by an opponent per 90. But at the same time, he was only dispossessed throughout the entire tournament 5 times. That's 1.19 per 90. He was fantastic in every way you can imagine. I think it's pretty obvious that if he doesn't get injured in the Belgium game, Spinazzola would have been player of the tournament. I'm playing a 4-3-3, so some big calls to be made in the midfield and in the striking options. But before that, I just want to say a massive thank you to today's sponsor, Ultimate Fan. As you guys know, I really enjoyed playing Ultimate Fan during the Euros. If you missed Ultimate Fan during the Euros, don't worry, it's back again. It is completely free to play. You've got to be over 18 and from the UK or Ireland. For those of you who don't know what Ultimate Fan is, it's a fantasy game with a difference because you open packs and you build a squad and then put forward 5 players. As was the case during the Euros, you can of course play for free, but you can also get a gold subscription, which is $4.99 per month, or a silver subscription, which is $2.99 per month. And through those subscriptions, you will get gold packs to help you build your squad with gold players. And there will be a 15 grand prize pool. So you can play for free and earn yourself some money, and you can build your squad between now and the start of the season. By the start of the season, you'll have an absolutely banging squad and you'll be ready to battle it out amongst your friends. What's really exciting about the Premier League competition is that between now and the start of the season, you're going to be able to build up a really exciting squad. So there is that flexibility and there are big calls to make. So if you think you know your stuff, get involved. Link is in the description. As I said, you've got to be over 18 and from UK or Ireland to play. Get stuck in, guys, and start building your squad today. Let's get into this midfield then. Sorry, I just hit puberty. Bit like our next entrant into the team, Pedri from Spain. Why? How am I not on mainstream television with links like that? Forget it. Pedri, unbelievable. Played every single game for Spain. This is Spain in a major tournament at 18 years of age. 18. Whilst operating in the most sought-after position for Spain as well, I think. Most people want to go, yeah, I'd like to play there. Nope, it's going to be the 18-year-old kid. This guy is gorgeous to watch. So good. So accomplished. So much so that in the first 90 minutes of the Italy game, a semi-final, by the way, he didn't give the ball away once. Every single pass was completed. 18. Passes into the final third. Normally you see this come from the centre-backs because that's the starting point a lot of the time. But he's got more than Laporte. Laporte had 64. Pedri leads the way with 68. All of the passing stats is in the top 2 repeatedly. And as expected, in terms of chances created, 27 shot creating actions for Spain, leads the way. Next up is Dani Olmo with just 20. I mean, 20 is good, right? But 27 is even better. Did I tell you he's 18? Crazy. To put that in perspective, he could still win Young Player of the Tournament, which he's just won in 2025. Paul Pogba. And I think the biggest thing I can say about his tournament is the fact that they go out in the round of 16 and I've still got to have him in my team. He was purring. He really was purring. And it's so lovely to see. And also what's lovely to see is that he doesn't have to play on the left-hand side, trying to get the best out of Paul Pogba. He played quite deep on the right-hand side quite often, and he was the chief creator for France. In terms of only Antoine Griezmann had more shot-creating actions for the French. Paul Pogba had 17, Antoine Griezmann had 18. Paul Pogba had more from live passes, 12 and 2 from dribbles, as opposed to Griezmann, who had 11 from live passes and 1 from dribbling. But again, the point remains is that Paul Pogba was doing this all from deep, really. He only had 1 goal creating action, but he can count himself kind of unlucky, actually, because he created 3 big chances. He put forward a fantastic defensive effort as well, 3 tackles and interceptions per 90, and he rounded off a very complete tournament with 2.3 successful dribbles per 90 at a completion rate of 75%. All these stats are great because they back up my point, but ultimately, I just loved watching Paul Pogba in this tournament. He just felt mature. He was trotting about and he was fantastic to watch. And I really look forward to hopefully seeing him in the Premier League doing exactly the same this season. I'm going to put him in the base of this midfield, but during this tournament, that's not the role that he played. Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, you know, I like him, but he's been really good. There's no disputing it. And he's played a very different role in this tournament. Normally, he's kind of known for being that destroyer, and there were elements and contributions that came from him that fit that, but it was going forward that he was just fantastic. He was kind of let off the leash a little bit, maybe with the fact that, you know, what happened to Eriksen and the fact that they played 2 in midfield. But the reason they were able to play 2 in midfield is because of his relentlessness, because of his stamina, him along with Delaney. Let's start with the defensive side of it first. Defensively, he started the press. He was responsible for that. And so that puts a strain on you anyway, which would imagine that it might mean that you are a bit more chilled out in terms of being on the ball yourself. Pressures this tournament, 104. The next down was Delaney with 69, which I think speaks volumes. With the ball, though, I think that's where he really caught the eye. 3 assists from 6 matches. From those 3 assists, what's interesting is the expected assist was 0.7. So you would have thought that maybe he's got a little bit lucky here. But that said, he actually created 22 shot creating actions. The next best was Mailer with 7 less, 15 to the 22 of Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. And importantly, of those 22 shot creating actions, not a single one of those was from a dead ball. So he announced himself as a box-to-box midfielder instead of the defensive midfielder that we'd seen in the last season at least with Spurs. Up top on the left-hand side, now there's a lot of competition for this one, but I'm going to have to give it to Lorenzo Insigne. And now the stats back him up a little bit, but I think we know, watching this tournament, that for the winning team's main threat when it comes to going forward, to not be in the team of the tournament is kind of overlooking the quality that he was able to bring and the outlet, the option that he was able to bring throughout the tournament. Now, 5 matches, 2 goals, 0 assists doesn't sound that great, but this is, to be honest, this is one with a kind of the heart and the eye test. I really hope that he would have a great tournament going into it. And he really did. And I think if you look at that final, look how England set up with Trippier and with Walker to exclusively stop Insigne. I think that really does speak volumes. From those 2 goals that he scored, the XG combined was 1, which shows his quality. One of the goals of the tournament, of course, against Belgium. He created 3 big chances. I think a big reason why Spinazzola works so well is because of Insigne as well. And I think the big stat that I do want to highlight here is in terms of getting on the ball in the final third. He registered 246 touches in the final third. The next best was Verratti with 146. He was always the option, as shown by the amount of progressive passes that he received. 43 progressive passes. And this is for a guy who's 5'4" and supposedly playing in the half spaces, which just shows his intelligence. And again, it comes back to Mancini maybe a little bit as well. The desire to get him on the ball because they knew that that would create so much for them and be such a weapon for them. And he delivered. In that single centre-forward position, there can only be one man, Patrick Schick, who scored 5 goals in 5 matches with an XG of 2.4. Now, one of those goals, annoyingly, had an XG of 0.01. Of course, the goal against Scotland. But if you kind of counterbalance that one with a penalty that he scored, his XG of 2.4 when he scores 5 goals, I think kind of levels it out a little bit. Some of the headers that he scored and his finishing ability, again, really announced him on the stage. So much so that I think we're so well worn with tournament success of certain players. People going, kind of turning on him a little bit and going, don't sign him because he's the guy, because he played so well. To be the joint Golden Boot winner in a team that only had a better XG than one opponent in the entire tournament says so much. He scored 83.3% of his team's goals in a tournament where the side only created 1.4 big chances per 90. Essentially, look at the goal scorers for the Czechs. Patrick Schick scored 5. Thomas Holles scored 1. That's the end. On the right-hand side, my choice for player of the tournament, Raheem Sterling. I've got to put him on the right-hand side, even though he played on the left quite often. But he played on the right as well. He played through the middle as well. He showed his versatility. He proved the critics wrong. And he was a big game player. 4 goal contributions, 3 goals and 1 assist. 3 of those goal contributions winning the match for England. He was superb. And let's remember, this is a player that was kind of chastised for his finishing. I think I'd said it myself. That was always my frustration with him. Well, he's proven me wrong. And he hadn't scored a goal in a major tournament. That has been put to bed quite severely. His tactical flexibility, his leadership, his mental strength, his football intelligence, and then just pure ability as well. The stamina that he showed in some of these games, the Denmark game, 120 minutes, we literally put him on the right-hand side and just said, please, run at him again, and again. We had a player that everyone was talking about, myself including, about being a player that has to start in Jack Grealish. He got subbed on and then subbed off because the call was, it's going to be Jack Grealish or Raheem Sterling. And he had to keep on Raheem Sterling. That's how good Raheem Sterling was in this tournament. And the final thing I've got to say about Raheem Sterling is that he's 26. He is building a legacy and a career both on the pitch and off it with his mental strength, as I said before, and his ability to shut out the noise that I think we can all be inspired by, because there is a hell of a lot of noise out there. And sometimes you do have to just back yourself, invest in yourself. And that's exactly what he did. Coming into the tournament with not a lot of confidence, or certainly not a lot of confidence in him, he showed that steely mindset to be elite. An elite player in the tournament and my player of the tournament. Right, guys, I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you're still watching right now and you haven't hit the like button, please do consider hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel, hitting the notification bell as well. And let me know what you think in the comments below. Would you have made any changes? And who was your player of the tournament? Let me know down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.